This is, let me see if I can put this in. This is the old St. Andrew's College keychain, and it's not really focusing on it well, but
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. This is from, okay, it says 1958 onwards, St. Andrew's Presbyterian College. This was a keychain that you bought from me, Martin. Gosh, uh, well, a few decades ago, put it that way. And it's just great. I've kept it here in Japan. I've used it on my car and things in Japan, and people have asked me about it occasionally. Here's another one. This is a bookmark, gold medal bookmark,
Oh,
St. Andrew's Presbyterian College. Nice little stringy here hanging down, blue, that I've also kept. This one I think I bought at the bookstore, but you bought this for me many years ago. I really like that. Then here, of course, is a much newer St. Andrew's University, and along with a funky little keychain as well, which is pretty
that's
neat.
right. I sent you that from one of the
Yeah, you sent
events.
these to me recently, and
Eh,
I thought it's kind of cool to contrast
Yeah,
this and this.
yeah.
It's just neat. I'm glad that they're continuing on the tradition, but both of them have the similar design. The legacy continues, put it that way.
That's the story I wanted to talk about today is that
Great.
you and I met as friends in Mecklenburg Dorm, and
Yep.
I joined the alumni council, I guess, about a year ago. I'm real honored to be part of it. And I thought
Mhm.
it'd be real fun to talk about our story that began. And I'm going to begin with my version of it, and then we'll
Mhm.
see what you say, because I haven't told you this in a while. I was sitting in the Mecklenburg suite, and we had a big black and white TV there,
Yeah.
and Monty Python was on. And I'm sitting in the chair watching and laughing Monty Python, and you walk in and you're standing up and you're laughing as well, and we're enjoying the fact that we find it humorous, and we had not really met before. And I said, why don't you sit down and join me? And you said, you remember, I'm trying to cut down. And we just broke out laughing because it was in the theme of Monty Python that, and I think the exact phrase I remember, I'm trying to cut down, it's so addictive. And I went, what, sitting down? And you said, yes. And of course, I was like, the beginning of almost immediate friendship. Like, okay, this guy's cool. Let's have a seat and talk. And then we found out we were in similar suites, and we found out we had similar music interests, yes, and a lot of other things. And that was the beginning of a wonderful friendship. Am I close to what you think might have
Yeah,
happened?
that's my memory as well. Mecklenburg dormitory in those days, the ground floor, first floor, there was a lounge inside. And you're right, there was a large TV with assorted furniture in various states of disrepair sitting around, arranged around this TV. I thought it was color, but it might have been black and white. I do know that every Monday the cleaning staff would come in looking very dejected because they knew that was utterly
They
trash.
had to clean it up. The
It'd be
other thing I
utterly
remember
trash
is
for people.
the
But
basketball team watching soap operas in the suite. That was so funny.
yeah,
They
that was
love
also
watching
very odd.
these big guys, really tall guys sitting there watching and getting emotional over soap operas,
Yeah,
traditional
yeah,
soap
there's a lot of
operas such as
oddities.
The Hoot.
A lot of oddities. Yeah, yeah, but I think I agree. I think that's how that was maybe our first conversation. And you're right. The dormitory was arranged in suites, and I also have a funny memory. It was I remember that the first time that was the first time I think we spoke, and it was very brief. But then I realized that we were in the same suite of the same floor of the dormitory in the same suite because one day my room was two or three doors down from yours, my
Right.
dormitory.
That's it.
And one day I heard someone speaking very loudly, and I could hear just the little murmurs of someone who responding. It didn't sound angry, but I thought that voice sounds familiar. Wow, is he using a megaphone or using a microphone? And I was curious, but then I realized that the person was talking about the universe, astronomy, and things, and the other person was giving quiet, non-committal, somewhat frightened responses, as far as I could tell. I got curious. I stepped out of into the hallway. Someone else had stepped out as well, because they were also curious and maybe worried. So we we walked down, peered in. Your door was open. It was you standing, talking very well, animated, to put it that way. To I think your roommate might have been Kyle.
Kyle Gillespie. Yeah. In fact, if he
Nice
ever
guy.
sees that, I'd love to hear from him. Very
Yeah,
soft spoken, nice guy.
yeah, soft-spoken, nice guy who was a little overwhelmed at the time, but it was your sheer volume that was very impressive. And you definitely had your facts, and you weren't threatening him in any way, but it was the volume and the persistence of continuing on with that topic that was very it was impactful. But what really struck me was, I think it might have been the next week, certainly within that month. If you remember, in those days, telephones were not in each room,
No.
and of course there were no smartphones or cell phones back in those in the Jurassic period when we went there. So there was a phone by the staircase. On each floor there were 3 or 4 phones set up that would handle an entire suite. And whoever happened to be walking nearby, the protocol, politeness was, you would answer the phone, you'd ask, who do you want to speak to, and then just a moment, they go and try to see if that person was in or whatever. So one day the phone rang. I was the person close to it. I answered the phone, and someone seemed to be shouting really loud. I had to hold the receiver away, and he's like, "Hello, can I speak to Martin Brossman, please?" This bellowing voice. Oh, God. And I said, "Wait a minute, you are Martin Brossman." And I said, "Oh, okay, just a moment," or whatever. And I knocked on your door, and you were there, and you came out. And then you had a conversation with you. It was your father. So
I know.
I said, this guy is in Washington, D.C. He could have opened his window and had a conversation with North Carolina. But it was great. Anyway, it was comical, but it was also, it was, again, it was intriguing. And our friendship has been, just developed over the years. It's been great. But we had we had funny experiences there, wonderful experiences, and very humorous ones. Some of them we can discuss, and some of them we probably shouldn't.
Yeah, right. We probably won't, but no, that's true. My father has a similar laugh and voice pattern as me, and of course I'm the third, so it was like, what the heck? There are 2 Martins here, but yeah, that was excellent. And we had our little dorm set up, and we would get together and listen to I think we'd sometimes get albums. That was a big deal. And I was some of the topic was Yes and Pink Floyd, and I think Tangerine Dream, and a number of those things.
St. Andrews had a functioning radio station in those days.
Yeah.
And you and a former friend of ours who unfortunately passed away, Greg Piccola, he was quite involved with the radio station. I much to the misfortune probably of most students, and definitely the staff at St. Andrews, I was given my own little time slot in which I played very weird progressive music and made comments that were probably semi-coherent at best throughout to the 3 or 4 people who might have been listening. But it was fun. It was fun. There were a lot of interesting activities that went on during a very difficult time in St. Andrews history. If you recall, the student number had dropped quite a lot at the time, and then it picked up again. But when we were there, I think there was about 1.5 acres per student or something like that.
Yeah.
But that it was really happy times in many ways, though, in terms of social. The people who were there, they tended to stay on campus. There were things happening all the time. And you
Yeah,
were,
and we would just get together in dorms, but I'll talk about the radio station. I was, quote, the engineer. Now,
yeah,
understand this was broadcasting over low power through cable access around the dorm. And I, like you said, there might have been as many people scheduled to be on the air doing shows as there might have been listeners. I'm not sure. But of course, all of us that were scheduled and worked with the radio station listened to the station. We at least knew that. And what was amazing is there was a guy, I forgot his name, but he was kind of worked with Greg, and he had convinced all the main record labels that we were a big station. So brand new albums come in and they sent it to us.
We had
so we got the latest and greatest, a huge collection, and it would come in like daily. There'd be another album, and we were getting it as though we were a 50,000 watt station. And I just don't. I can see his face, but I think that guy went into the military as a therapist, which was really interesting. He was quite a character, but. The key of it is that we had fantastic collection of records. So people wanted to have a time slot to do the shows because of course they would have it. And then we had things most people would know, but 8-track tapes. So we're called we had cartridges. So there'd be recordings. We even had some advertisers. You plug in a card and say, and here's an advertiser from, such and such.
We were required to do that. Yeah, we were required. Right. I had to do that. I had to be sober enough to do that. Yeah.
That's right.
Not that I drank excessively at all. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, it was amazing how well stocked, in terms of music, and technology, that station was. So yeah, it was fun.
And the dormitory, you're right. I got to be the dorm president, and that was really exciting. And we'd have meetings in the lobby, and of course the girlfriends would be there too, and you'd have their comments on the dorm as well. So it was kind of
residents,
a collective of comments and approvals, and Judy has a good point over here. Okay, we'll put the seats down or whatever it was, but there'd be some discussions that would be mixed in with it, and it was just would be just part of the whole community. And then, of course, the separation of the school, having the dorms on one side, then this kind of a lake in between, and a causewalk that goes across, and then the academic buildings on the other side really created a wonderful environment for us. We got bands to come in.
Yes, we did.
I remember Traffic and some other really significant bands. The Fargo, I think it was called, facility. Now that, unfortunately, they haven't been able to recover that. But there was an attempt, could they recover it? And they have other plans. I'm not sure if they're official or not, but they have some very cool plans to create a space sometime in the future so students would have a place like that.
So there will be a new entertainment, possibly space you're hinting at.
Right, exactly. That, to have something like that in the future with the students as well. But just walking around the campus, I tell people it's really kind of a sacred place to just go back, and you've done it a few times, and walk around that campus, and with so many good memories in all aspects of it, and such a beautiful campus. And what I noticed last time I was there is, it's relatively close to the road, but you never really notice it. I mean, there's woods and stuff. It's not like miles away. The highway.
501 or 4, whatever.
Yeah, but you don't notice it on campus. It has a nice division. So it's meaning you can easily get and go to a bunch of little stores or something if you want to, or even walk. I mean, literally from the campus still, you can walk to a number of food places and other things, but it has a nice sense of separation there. And that's what one of the wonderful aspects of St. Andrews is, that just the space it has and the memories we have of doing it. I do have to say, we did a Mr. Rogers party playing punk music. I don't think anyone ever else had done that before. And people were to dress up like Mr. Rogers, and we played punk music.
Not sure if Mr. Rogers is known to anyone other than our generation and older, but Yeah, he had a TV program that aimed for little
Yeah,
children.
yeah, a children's
Very
program, and he was real low
soft-spoken.
key. Yeah.
Yeah, soft-spoken gentleman, and gentleman in really in that old sense of the word, and with punk music. Hey, talking of big names though, in the jazz world, Dave Brubeck and
Mhm.
Sons came to St. Andrews to perform. We did indeed have, and hopefully they will again, or maybe they are occasionally having entertainers, pretty big name entertainers who come through. I think Stephen Halpern came as well
Yes, he did. You're
um,
right.
when we
And
were
he
there.
did like ambient music and stuff. Yeah.
He was one of the pioneers of ambient music.
Yeah.
So St. Andrews, as you said, there were people who, including our beloved professor who passed away a few years ago, Ron Bays, who had a much larger reach than you'd expect from such a small university, college in those days, but university. So Ron Bays was able to pull in world famous poets and authors, Robert Bly and others who came,
Mhm.
and it was amazing what a cultural oasis, in a sense, St. Andrews has been. I think, and hopefully still is. I'm sure
Yeah.
it is.
Years later, I wanted to meet Bly from his work of Iron Johns. It's one, my
Mm.
first book was about a men's book, and
All right.
I said, "What can I do to meet him?" And they said, "Well, if you'll drive him to the airport, then you can meet him." So I went to an event he offered. He did a really cool event on what legacy you want to leave. The importance of thinking about your legacy. So I get in the car, and when I was in college, I just didn't get my head around poetry, but I was exposed enough to it
Mhm.
later in life to take it on. And it really didn't have much meaning to me at the St. Andrews, but people like you and others that Ron Bays, it had meaning to. It was enough of an influence that I later in life slowed down and started to experience what it was. I'm
Mhm.
not, and so I wrote some poems, and I met Ron Bays, and I'm putting my luggage in. Well, I, of course, wimped out on showing him the poems. So I stuffed them in the car. By the time I packed the luggage, he had found the poems, and he pulled them out, and he says, "Are these your poems?" I thought, yeah, I'm waiting for him to say this is complete crap. And he said, "Would you like a tip I got from Azure Pound?" Well, of
Wow,
course,
Ezra Pound. Yeah. Wow.
yeah, I mean,
I
I
think you
knew
dropped
even
him
from
anyway.
Ron Bays the influence of him as a poet and so forth.
Mhm.
I said, yeah, and he said, make every line create an image. I'll never forget that. And then we're driving, and I said, do you remember going to St. Andrews? And he said, our friend Mike Salibi, he says, yes, I almost lost my life there. And I went, what are you talking about? Well, he was late for the plane, and our friend Mike Salibi drove, and apparently he drove so fast. He got him there on time and so fast, he was worried he wouldn't survive. So
Yeah.
his memory of St. Andrews was getting to the plane, but he says, I got to the plane on time. It just
Yeah,
was cool.
Mike drove like a maniac. Yeah, Mike
But he
drove
got him
it.
there.
Yep, got there safely.
But just the fact we got to interact with it and interact with the instructors, that was so important to it. And like you said, Ron Bays, I really got to know him through you and Mike,
Mhm.
and we had a lot of really good friends there. Andrew Montgomery, I'd love to hear from him again. I unfortunately lost track of him, and some of the other people, like you said, some have passed on. And Alan Haywood.
Alvin,
Uh,
Alvin Haywood.
Alvin, that was it. Yeah, a real sharp guy
He
too.
went on to, if I recall, after St. Andrews, he went on to the Union Seminary School, I think
Oh,
Union.
really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
He was very bright. He was actually he was the president, president of the student body. He was for one of the years we were there. Yeah, very
Oh, that's
dynamic.
right, Alvin. Yeah, and of
Dynamic.
course the other thing is what people today don't know is St. Andrews was the first university to be wheelchair accessible. Now they all are,
Right.
but
Yeah.
that was such an experience for us because
Mhm.
having people in wheelchairs, a lot of us, I think out of 800 students, 100 had some challenge or disability.
Yeah, it was
in the
a
time
fairly
period.
high
So
percentage. Right.
that was a wonderful experience for us to be around that. And Bobby McWhorter was a quadriplegic. He was one of the presidents of the school. He was so funny. He would have like bumper stickers, I'm not going to repeat, on the back of his chair that you go, oh my God, that's terrible. Someone put that on your chair. And it'd be like, it may be making fun of his disability. And then you find out he had it put on his chair, you know. but
Yeah.
But there would be that area as well. And we had the swimming pool. And then Rick, you played soccer. That was kind of the main sport there a little bit too. When
Yeah, it
you,
was
I
one
think
of
your
the main
first year, right?
Yeah, yeah. So some things I think
Basketball and
probably
soccer at the
carrying on as
time.
well now. From as
Yeah.
far as I can tell from my visits and then from checking the website, St. Andrews, soccer, softball is still going on. Obviously, it was a different part of the campus, or maybe it was nearby, but people who rode horses, and then that whole
Yeah.
that whole program is nationally well known, and that has been going on for many years. But you're right. I remember one of the reasons that I chose St. Andrews actually was because there was a testing center. It might still be there, a testing center for career. It was career counseling. It was one of the first ones to open in North Carolina. I think there were only two at the time in the late 70s when I went to get tested. I was a high school senior, and so I went to get tested to test my interests, intelligence, and interests. And as I say, I think there were only two in North Carolina at the time. So I went there for a weekend to have that done, and I noticed that this lake, this beautiful campus, that people were floating, not really paddling, but just kind of floating on these canoes and other boats, just sort of drifting along. And there were classes being held outside on the campus. And I thought, is this what this school is it this idyllic? You know, is this what it's like? This sounds good. This looks good. And so, and that was part of the reason I chose to go to that school. It was so beautiful. And also there was the rapport, obviously, with some of the professors I saw and the students was respectful, but also very relaxed. And it was small, not the campus, but the classes that I saw were small. And there was a lot of one-on-one attention given. And I was very impressed, as you said, with the diversity, physical diversity. And also I talked with some of the students who came from all over the country, and a lot of international students, given the size of the student population. So it was a very intellectually, physically, and ethnically diverse population. So it was really a pioneer in many ways of a very diverse student population. It was very impressive. And so when it came time to decide on schools, it was near the top of my list. And really glad I went there. Met you and many other good friends and teachers who truly, truly cared about the students and were very devoted to that. It was, as you say, and still is, it's close enough to points of access, highways, major highways, and intersections of various routes so that it's accessible, yet it does feel secluded just enough so that it was its own little world. And I'm sure it still is. So if you want to have an experience that's on campus and dynamic, you can, but it's there. Martin, This is great. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to end this. I have an appointment from 4 minutes ago.
Yeah, I got it. No problem. I just wanted to make a little thing and say really thanks I want to thank everyone for their support of St. Andrews. I'm honored to be on the alumni council. We'll do another show with this as well. I just wanted us chat a little bit and talk about I'd love to hear from more St. Andrews people what their story is and what brought them to it and why they were drawn to the school itself. So that's thanks for taking a moment. I'm going to pass this on to the school as well. And of course, I do have to say thanks for being the publisher of my new book too.
Oh,
so
welcome. My pleasure.
Thanks. So this has traveled to, look, we, met as became best friends over the years, and now you're my publisher of the book, and and I help with marketing and so forth. So this was terrific, Rick. Thanks so much.
It's been great. It's been great.
Take care.
Thanks a lot, Martin. Take good care. Thanks. Bye-bye.